Welcome everyone to today's GAPLA online talk, the first online talk in 2021. Very exciting. For those who don't know GAPLA, I think there are a few who don't know us. We are a non-for-profit association of lawyers in different countries, including Australia, Germany, Austria, and New Zealand. And we offer a platform for our members and colleagues to exchange ideas and information around the world. Now, you should be able to see my fellow board members on video. We've got Juliane Werther in Berlin. We've got Schweizer Kobras in Sydney and Volker in Germany as well. Now, also on camera, you should be able to see our speakers. I'd like to introduce Alexander Nadiraschwili and Claudia Genuttis. Alexander is an experienced tax and migration lawyer in Germany. He's a partner at, let me just quickly look at my cheat sheet, Geismar Rechtsanwälte in Berlin. And Claudia is a migration specialist in Sydney at Schweizer Kobras. Today we'll discuss some migration law issues. The topic is work and live in Germany, and we will talk about how to migrate to Germany and what to look out for when working in Germany. Just a bit of housekeeping. You will be able to ask questions throughout the presentation. Juliane will unmute you if you have a question, or you can unmute yourself. Actually, not quite sure about that, but we will work it as we go. So,
testing. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
People should be able to.
I can unmute myself.
Very
beautiful. So, any questions are welcome. However, I should say that neither Alexander nor Claudia can give legal advice during this presentation. So, please keep your questions at a general nature. And I think that's all the housekeeping for today. And I would like to now welcome Alexander.
Hey, thank you. Ja, schönen guten Morgen oder guten Abend, je nachdem, wo die Teilnehmer gerade sitzen. Für den Part zum Migration to Germany, den würde ich auf Deutsch halten, wenn irgendwelche Fragen sind, aber sonst kann man auch nochmal auf Englisch erläutern. Vielleicht kurz, um sozusagen das Thema einzusteigen, Migration im Sinne von Reise- und Bewegungsfreiheit für jeden Einzelnen, würde ich noch gerne auf einen Artikel aufmerksam machen von Frau Sarah Deem, die ist Lecturer an der UTS in Sydney, wo auch ich meinen Master gemacht habe, aber ich kenne sie nicht, aber es ist ein sehr interessanter Artikel zur Geschichte des Passes und sozusagen die rechtlichen Aspekte dazu.
Excuse me, Alexander, sorry for interrupting, but is it fine for everybody that you speak in German? Let's just quickly check, because I'm not sure everybody understands German.
Oh, okay. Otherwise I can.
Aaron and Tamara, could you let us know whether that's fine for you?
Aaron's written in the text saying no German, sorry.
Okay, so we can have a look at the chat.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, okay. So,
okay.
So would it be possible to?
Yes, so I will switch to English. I think.
Thank you so much.
So yes, to look in this topic a bit broader for travel and freedom of movement, I would like to point out through an article of a lecturer from the UTS in Sydney, where I completed my master's degree as well. So Ms. Sarah Deem. The title is just Passport. I will just quickly give you the link here. So for anyone who's interested in this. So this is just that everybody should, or it's good to think about it, like the frontiers and these limits in the movement of freedom as we see them now, and everybody thinks that's very common and that everybody has a passport. These rules were only introduced at around about 100 years ago. And until then, people were free to move across borders more freely than they are now. So this is an interesting aspect of migration law. So for example, like in Germany in the 19th century, it was all the needs to have a passport were abolished, and everyone was free to come and to move out from Germany. And only with the beginning of the First World War, passports were introduced worldwide to control the borders more widely. And even after the First World War and after the Second World War, the United Nations or the League of Nations after the First World War, they always tried to abolish passports again, but they could not reach any agreements. So it's just from the United Nations as well, the statement is that agreements between states to reduce or waive the requirement of passports are highly desirable. But until now, it's, we can see that in the Schengen area, it is a bit of this movement or was fulfilled, but not worldwide yet. So therefore, we have strict rules in Germany, as we do have in other countries too. And to move to Germany, there are mainly two options. So you can divide it either as a family partner or as a skilled migrant on a working visa. So we are not talking, or I'm not talking about the possibilities for refugees, because this is not my area. So we will just focus on family and working visas. For family visas, for Australian citizens, or for example, if a German citizen has an Australian partner, is pretty simple. If you are married, so this is a very big or an important difference between German and Australian law, because the family member can be only a spouse if you're married. And de facto partnership does not exist in German law. So if you're not married, you just can have the option through the working visa, which I will point out a bit later. What is interesting is that during the COVID-19 rules, the European Union decided that even partners with de facto relationships are now allowed to travel to Germany or into Europe, even if they're not married. So this is for Germany very new, because until August last year, partners who were not married were not allowed to visit each other. So,
and I understand that's a big difference to Australia, right?
Yes, we do have the concept of de facto relationships in Australia. Alexander, one thing I wanted to ask you on that, is there any other option as such a thing as what you might call a civil union in Germany, or is it really only married people that can do that?
it's only marriage, or if there are two male partners or two female partners, if they are officially registered. So this is in Germany called the eingetragene Lebenspartnerschaft, but this is quite the same as the marriage. Okay. So there are no other options. The only other way is if two partners who are not married do have children together. This opens up a pathway as a family member as well for the non-German partner, if the children do have the German citizenship.
Yeah. So that would be a family reunion with the child then, rather than the partner.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if they're married, so the partner visa usually has so the need that you have to show that you have knowledge of German language. So the Australian or the foreign partner usually has to show knowledge of a certificate A1. So this is the first step, but still not so easy to prove this knowledge. This was introduced in roughly around 2000 because there were many cases of so-called Zwangsehen. Not quite sure of the English term.
Your forced marriages.
Forced marriages with wives from which were not yet 18 and from mainly from Muslim countries, especially from Turkey. And so that's why they introduced this regulations that also the partners need to prove the German language knowledge. But there's a list of countries, the so-called positive states, and Australia is one of these countries where people don't need to have the German language knowledge. So all Australian partners are free to come as family members without any German. Makes it easier.
Albeit not living here.
Yes. And another thing is, about this rule, which is, I think, a bit irritating, that partners have to prove the German language knowledge. I heard that they introduced, or they're talking about to introduce some rule like this in Australia too, that the partners have to prove English. I'm not quite sure if they have to do it now.
No, not yet, but it will come in at the end of this year. And interestingly, not only the visa applicants, or not only the incoming partner, I would call them, has to prove their English language skills, but also the Australian counterpart, the Australian sponsor will have to do that. Can I have one other thing I wanted to ask you about, what you call the positive countries. In Australia, we have we make a very big difference between visas you can apply for onshore and visas you can apply for offshore. I think people from those particular countries, including Australia, are able to apply for these visas in Germany, and they don't necessarily have to organize that before they arrive there. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah. So this was just my next point. So the question is where to apply for the visa. And again, we've got this list of positive countries like Australia, where you can just travel visa-free to Germany and apply for the residence permit then in Germany, so onshore. The only thing is you have to register first to get this Wohnsitz-Anmeldung, to register your address, and very likely to have a medical insurance. And afterwards, you can just apply for the residence permit in Germany. For all other countries, even if you've got a visitor visa, you won't be able to apply for the residence permit in Germany. So you have to do it always through the embassy or consulate in the home country, which also usually takes a couple of months before then the visa can be granted.
We had already one question, sorry, Alexander, from Aaron, and he was just asking what exactly it was that happened in August regarding the relaxed rules on de facto relationships. Could you just briefly outline that?
Yes, but that is only for visitors. So because we have the travel ban now in Europe for all, well, not from Australia, because Australia is not a risk area. So Australia, but you're not able to travel from Australia anyway.
But only under certain circumstances.
Yeah. So,
okay, so you can travel to Germany but not work. You won't get a work visa.
Yes, it's just for tourist reasons or for visiting your partner.
Okay.
But you were not, until August, you were not allowed even to visit your partner if you were not married during the travel ban. And that's what they relaxed now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, so as I said, you can apply as an Australian citizen in Germany. So to sum up the first point for the family visa, as an Australian, it is pretty simple. You don't need any German language knowledge, and you can apply. You can travel to Germany visa-free and apply for this residence permit here as long as you are married or in a registered partnership, but not only a de facto relationship.
And the registered partnerships, that's only possible for 2 females or 2 males.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the second pathway is the working migration. So this is, they introduced a couple of new rules last year in March. which is the so-called Fachkräftezuwanderungsgesetz. So it's to control and to encourage highly skilled migration to Germany. That is the aim of this new law. What did they change to the rules which applied before this new law? The main thing is it is now easier if you're either have a university degree or any other occupation. It doesn't matter, so you don't have an occupation list or anything like this, like it's, for example, in Australia. So anybody who has an occupation and can prove it can apply for a visa, but, and there's another difference to Australia, so maybe Claudia can just talk about it, is that you always need to have a labor contract already. So there must be an employer who is ready to employ you and the qualification.
So even before you come to Germany, you do need an employment contract?
Yes.
Is that all the only role the employer they plays, or is the employer party to the visa application, or even as a sponsor or anything like that?
Well, it's, under the new regulations, he can be part of the application process, so he can support you with any documents, or he can directly apply to the local authorities, but he does not have to. So it's enough if you have this working contract and show it. But
are there any occupations that are preferred? You said there is no occupation list or anything like that, so there are no preferential treatment for IT people, for example, who we seem to like here.
There are in the working migration scheme there are differences, but the main topic or the main thing that is new since March last year that there is no difference as long as you have this university degree or any other qualifications which is equal to a two-year Berufsausbildung in Germany.
Oh, yeah, a traineeship or something.
And 2-year traineeship, yes. Then you can apply for any working visa if you have this working contract. They want to attract people with mathematics, engineering, nature science, and technical occupations, and for Pflegekräfte, so caring, daycare.
Carers.
Yeah, but it's not limited to these areas. On the other hand, still there is this blue card scheme in Germany, which is, well, the name is probably like coming from the green card in the US. In Europe, they call it the blue card, which is for highly specialized migration. And they are looking for only people with university degrees in certain areas like IT, medicine, for example, physics, I know, chemistry. So there's a list of special occupations where you don't have to meet a certain income threshold, which is lower for ITs, for example. The threshold is around about 3,600 euros per month. If you can show a working contract where you earn this amount of money, you get the blue card, which makes everything a bit easier for you. Because with the blue card, you can apply for the permanent residence already after 21 months. With the other normal working visa, it takes you 48 months to get permanent residence.
So we have a question from Aaron. Oh, do you want to do it, Claudia? Sorry.
No, you go, Juliane. You go. You're onto it.
Yeah, no, he's just asking that for an Australian, is it whether it's different? Can you not enter under the visa-free arrangement and search for work and apply for the work visa in country? Are there any restrictions on looking for work under visitor arrangements?
No, not for Australians. So for Australians, it's the working visa scheme is, and we'll come to this point just in a second, the same in the family visa. Usually you have to apply for the working visa in the home country through the embassy, unless you are from one of the states from the positive list, like Australia, where you just can come visa-free to Australia and then look for a job, have job interviews, and then apply for the visa you want, either I call it the normal working visa or the blue card, depending on your qualification and the job offer you have.
It is, by the way, also permitted in Australia. You can make employment inquiries and go to job interviews on a visitor visa, on a tourist visa.
Okay.
And how long can you stay in Germany with that visitor visa looking for a job? Because I think there are also restrictions.
Yes, as Australian or as all visa-free travelers can stay up to 90 days every 180 days. And they introduced a new visa, which is especially for people from countries where you don't have this visa-free travel arrangements. They introduced it last year as well. It's the job searching visa, which allows you to stay up to 12 months and to look for a job in Germany, but you're not allowed to work during this period. And another problem, but it's a bit difficult situation for some people, is for this visa, you already have to prove German language knowledge on the level of B1. Additionally to the qualifications, to the university degree you have to show, or the equivalent of the 2 years trainee program, plus B1 German knowledge. And as well for all other working visas, as long as you're not from the positive list, you will also need the German knowledge B1 even for the working visa, unless it's the blue card. For the high qualifications, they don't need any German language knowledge. And maybe one aspect that might be interesting for Australians as well who want to come to Germany to work here, if they want to take their partners, they don't need the German language knowledge as well as the Australian come with the working visa.
The partners don't?
The partners don't.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting. What if they're de facto and not married?
No, just if they're married. De facto partners have no option.
So a highly qualified person from Australia cannot take their de facto partner to Germany if they want to go to Germany.
Well, yes, they have to apply for own visa. I mean, there are usually options. I mean, they can come visa-free for the 3-month period, but obviously, if they want to live here longer, they have to find either a job or apply, for example, for a student visa or language course visas.
Claudia, from Sydney, it seems to me that the German regulations are a little bit stricter. Can you shed some light and maybe point out the main differences between what Alexander just told us and the system and laws in Australia?
We've already talked a lot about the de facto arrangements, but the role of employers, I think, seems to be a little bit stronger here. A very large portion of our skilled visas are issued to employer sponsors, companies that try to attract talent from overseas. I feel that that's a little bit of a stronger role the employer plays there. Australia also has the general skills program, which is independent of an employment or a job offer. So you can, based on your skills, apply for a visa to Australia, even if you don't have a job yet. There was one other thing I wanted to ask you, Alex. So if you get a visa, say, for example, you're let's say an IT specialist, do you have to work in that area, or can you go off and work at a pet shelter or something?
Yes, this is one point I've got to point out is, yeah, as I said, so you need this job offer and it needs to be in the area of your occupation. So mainly, yeah, if you're an IT specialist, you have to have a job offer that is somehow always, they say, somehow connected with your occupation.
And so
if you stay in that job, say for 3 or 4 months, and then decide you don't like it anymore, does that mean your visa's gone?
You have to stay, well, depending if it's a blue card or not. But if it's, let's say it's not a blue card, then you have to stay in this job for 2 years. And after 2 years, you're free to do anything you want, as long as you still have a job. So you always have to have a job in Germany to keep your visa, as long as you don't have the permanent residence. And if it's the blue card, you have to stay even in this certain area until you have to apply for the permanent residence. So with the blue card, you cannot do any other thing than the special occupation you have.
I think that's quite similar in Australia, isn't it, Claudia? If you have got a sponsored work visa, you've got to stay with your employer for 2 years. And if you, well, I might be wrong.
In Australia, it's even stricter than that. It's not
Right.
that you have to work in that particular area, it's that you have to work with that employer or an associated entity in that position. So if you get promoted, well, you'd have to get a new visa if your job changes. You can apply for permanent residency after 3 years, so you have to stay within that position for 3 years. And after that, once you have permanent residency, you're free to do whatever you like.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is one of the main differences that you can apply in Australia for the permanent residence from the beginning. And there's no such option in Germany. So you always have to get this temporary visa first. And only after the minimum period, you can apply for the permanent residence.
Yes,
And
Australia
talking
does have
about
options to apply for permanent residency straight away, even offshore. So you don't have to be in Australia for that, unless you go the employer-sponsored passport pathway, which is usually your temporary first and then your permanent.
And so probably question to both of you in the respective countries, but starting with Alex. So if an Australian citizen would successfully obtain a family partner visa or a skilled migrant working visa, after how long will they obtain permanent residency, or are they eligible to apply for permanent residency or citizenship?
Through the family pathway, you can apply for permanent residence after 3 years, either for permanent residence or even for citizenship after 3 years. Through the migration scheme, the blue card opens the pathway to permanent residence after 21 months if you have the German language B2 certificate, and with the B1 it's 27 months. With all other working visas after 48 months.
Okay. And Claudia, that is quite different here, isn't it?
Yes, but we do have an option to apply for, like I said, for permanent residency straight away. And then after, don't quote me on it, but I think it's 3 years, you can apply for citizenship.
Okay.
If you're German, you obviously, and you want to keep your German passport, you have to apply for a retention of German citizenship first. So because Germany generally doesn't allow dual citizenship, but Australia does. So there is, I would say fastest probably, yes, 3 years after arrival, you can apply for citizenship.
Yeah, so and in Germany, it's the same. So if you want to apply for German citizenship, you have to give up the Australian passport, because there's only very strict rules, and I can't think of a case where someone kept his Australian passport.
Well, I can only contribute our experience that my husband was able to keep his passport, but that was a Dutch passport. So
European
countries, they can have that.
Well, apparently the Netherlands are also quite strict about it, but because once you're married, and there we are again with the marriage, then you are allowed to keep it if you're married to a German. So that was pretty much the reason here. So I have the impression going to Germany, formal marriage is highly advised.
Or children.
Or children, yeah. So I would just like to point out it's already 3 past our due date time, and Are there any more questions, comments to our speakers or in general? Then please let us know, speak up.
Okay.
Happy to keep going if people have the time.
You're getting a lot of thank you messages here. It's been a great help. Thanks from
that's
Aaron.
good to hear, Aaron. Great.
And also thank you all panelists from Harley. So it looks like there's no open questions. Alexander and Claudia, is there any final remarks that you wanted to make that you didn't get to mention before?
From my side, mentioned everything, so that's fine. So yeah, basically German language knowledge is very important for German migration law.
And I might have a very, very quick final question, Alexander, because I found that interesting. So Australians are exempt from that requirement if they come through the family partner visa. Is there a English-speaking country exception, or how come the Australians don't need to speak English, but others do?
One point I forgot to mention is for the application for the permanent residence or the citizenships, even Australians need to prove the German language. So,
Right.
but the positive states, it's mainly English-speaking countries, but it's also South Korea, for example, and Canada. So it's not only English-speaking countries.
Okay.
But the reasons, there's political reasons. So it's just countries where there's very close relationships, and they decided that they wanted to make migration easier for people from these countries.
All right. Well, with that final comment, I would like to thank you both for your time and your very interesting insight into migration law in Australia and Germany. So thank you very much, Alexander and Claudia. And thank you very much to all the attendees and your questions. Thanks for joining us. And of course to our other panelists as well. So we hope that you will join us for the next presentation. Now, Juliane, remind me of the date and the topic.
I think the 24th of February. Sorry, I just had to look at my calendar. 24th of February, same time, and we will hear from over migration law, but this time the Australian perspective and on the COVID-19 travel restrictions into Australia.
Very burning topic for many of us, I think. So we will see you then.
Definitely.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.